Top of the morning to you, BookTube. We are live outside of my Target because I forgot toothpaste. We're all good now, and minty fresh. Today, it's tag time. I'm behind on a lot of tags, and so this one, I was tagged by, it's an original tag, and I was tagged by the creator, Nicole, of Nicole's Bookish Nooks. The tag's called the Rock On Celtic Songs Book Tag. If it's a tag involving songs and music, and I'm tagged in it, it's a priority to me. Let's get right into it, folks. Got my little notebook in my car with me today. Okay, prompt number 1. I say this is prompt 1 of 9, and then of course the 10th prompt being, of course, to tag other people. So number 1, Drunken Lullabies by Flogging Molly, a book involving a celebration that you enjoyed. This came to mind recently. I was watching Netflix. I just saw that show, The Fall of the House of Usher. It was like a few episodes. It was like one big story comprised of Edgar Allan Poe's stories. And of course, one of Edgar Allan Poe's most famous stories was about a celebration. It was called The Masque of the Red Death. Like all these noblemen, one guy in particular throws a party, all his like high society friends, they're in like a house trying to avoid the Red Death, the plague. And then a masked visitor comes to the party and decides to shake things up a little bit. It was a good one. And also, that show, Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix, that was a good one. Highly recommend that one. Prompt number 2, The Parting Glass by Ed Sheeran, a book that left you feeling bittersweet because it ended. Okay. I'm going to go the nonfiction route for this one. I'm going to reference the very first book I reviewed on my channel here. It's called The Answer Is by Alex Trebek. That one, he was writing it like toward the end of his life. Like he was battling cancer at the time. And I never read it until like a couple years after his passing. So like, of course, Alex Trebek was a fixture in our lives. Like 5 nights a week, we all sat down and watched Jeopardy. And as we're reading the book after he had passed, like the book ends like he's going like, yeah, I'm battling this disease. I don't know how much longer I have left. I'm just going to enjoy my life. And of course, I'm reading this after he had passed, so it was bittersweet that it ended because also, his life ended as well, not just the book. So yeah, that was bittersweet that it ended. It was to see like a lifelong fixture, someone I always enjoyed watching, pass away. Okay, number 3, Rebel Yell by Billy Idol, a book you read because someone told you not to read it. Truth be told, like, I don't really have many answers for this because, like, if someone told me not to read it, I don't care anyway. Like, and I'm not gonna. I never read something just because someone told me not to. Like, if it still didn't interest me, I'm still not gonna read it. But I had to go way back for this one, so I'm gonna go with the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Yeah, I went to a good school. I was a school run by the Christian Brothers, so I had like most of them were cool. Most of them didn't care, but like there was like one teacher who he wasn't even a brother. Like he was kind of like antsy about it. Yeah, don't read it. So I was like, ooh, and I'm in high school, so my rebellious teenage years. So I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch that movie and read that book that came out. How rebellious! I'm just watching a movie and reading a book. But anyway, so yeah, it was interesting. It was a great adventure. So yeah, so that's my answer. The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. All right, number 4, Starman by David Bowie, a sci-fi book about aliens. I had a number of books in mind. I was trying to think of a good one, a little different, something you don't normally see or normally hear in these tags. So I'm going to go with An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Hank Green, the younger brother of John Green, who wrote The Fault in Our Stars, Paper Towns, Turtles All the Way Down. I really like those two guys. Like they have their channel, their very successful channel here on YouTube, the Vlog Brothers. I always enjoy them. And so, of course, when Hank Green, this was his first book, and so I was curious to read it at the time. And I don't remember too much about it, so I might reread it at some point. But I remember it was fun. It was like this young girl, like this young woman, she's in like the city or whatever, and a statue just appears out of nowhere, and she's the first person. It's like 4 in the morning, and she's like the first person to like see it and document it, put it on YouTube. So like it goes viral because of her, and she becomes famous for it. There's a lot more than that, of course. Like all these statues start popping up all over the place. Like they call them Carls, I believe. Is it Carlos or Carlos? I can't remember. It was like a few years ago that book came out. So anyway, I'm gonna put that back on the reread list because there's also a sequel too, which I've never read. So I'm gonna read that sequel first. I will reread the first book to refresh my memory. All right, number 5, Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys. I actually did see Dropkick Murphys. It was like 10 years ago. I saw them in concert in Boston. I drove up there to visit some friends of mine. We went to see them in concert on St. Patrick's Day weekend. So that was a lot of fun. So, Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys, a fiction or nonfiction book set in or around Boston. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. It's called The Drop by Dennis Lehane. Recently read it. It was let's see. It was adapted into a really good movie. Matter of fact, Dennis Lehane. Look up his like bibliography. You'll recognize a lot of titles. Because a lot of his books have been adapted into really good movies, like Mystic River, and Clint Eastwood did that one back in the day. Like Gone Baby Gone, Shutter Island. This one, The Drop. I'll leave it at that. So like I'm starting to do like more individual book reviews, like individual videos for book reviews, and I'm gonna do one on The Drop because I thought it was pretty interesting. Essentially, it's about like these guys in Boston, like they run a bar, but the bar is like owned by like the Chechen mob, and like it's called a drop bar because it's like one of the little random spots that the mobsters own that they use to launder money. Or not launder, but they use it like to transfer money. Like it's not really not launder. It's not like the bar's a front, but they use the bar to transport their money and whatnot. And one night, these 2 masked thugs come in, or they rob the bar. So now they're screwed. The mobsters want to know who robbed the bar, and they want their money back. So it was a pretty good one, actually. Like I said, the movie was really good, but I will get into that a little bit more in its own separate video. Okay, number 6, The Bonnie Banks of Lochlomond, a book that's centered around nature. I'm gonna go with the first book in the series, one of my favorite series, the Joe Pickett series. That book 1 is called Open Season by C.J. Box. Like our main character, Joe Pickett, he lives with his family on his land in Wyoming, and he's a game warden, part law enforcement, part like environmental protection. And I'll be very vague. I won't get into too much detail of the story, but essentially part of the story is, like these businessmen, they want to build like this big pipeline, passes through this land, but there's something about the land that is protected by law. So technically, they can't build through this land. They can't build their pipeline, and so that gets in the way of things. And people try and, greed takes over. They want this land regardless of what's on the property. And I'll leave it at that. So, like, of course, just nature takes nature plays a big part in how the story plays out. Like, what is it about this land? What's there? Why can't they build through there? So it's a big part of the story. So I'm going with that. Open Season, the first book in the C.J. Box series. Okay. Number 7. I'm trying to say this right. Twa Recruitin Sergeants by Seamus Kennedy. A fiction or nonfiction book about war. Okay. Funny thing, I was going through Barnes & Noble, going up and down the shelves recently, came across one. I remember I read it in high school. It was Flags of Our Fathers. The author's name Bradley. I can't remember if his first name was Bill or Ben. Anyway, Flags of Our Fathers. It's about like the soldiers in that famous image, World War II Iwo Jima, those Marines raising the flag on the hill. And it was a complex story. I was like, that's such like a proud image. It sort of had like it's kind of an ugly story once like those soldiers they came back home. They were essentially what happened in the story too. Once they got home, like they were kind of like exploited a little bit. They got to go on the path to sell war bonds, promote the war effort. And it's a very complex story, and it was a hell of a story too. So yeah, so Flags of Our Fathers. I'm gonna go back. It was fresh in my mind because I saw it on the shelf in Barnes & Noble, and I wanted to reread that after all these years. Okay. Number 8, Molly Malone by the Dubliners, a A book with a badass female character. You know, this is my thing. As far as fiction books, I didn't have too many. I can tell you a lot of like non-fiction books about famous women or not that were pretty badass, but like fiction, I was coming up short. So I'm gonna go with the popular choice. Let's see, the whole Harry Potter series and Hermione Granger. There we go. She's pretty badass. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to think of one specific book in particular. I think it's the later ones when they're older and like those books got a little bit more violent. So yeah, Hermione Granger. We gotta go with the classic pick on that one. Okay, and number 9, the final prompt before the tags. Let's see, An Irish Pub Song by the Rumjacks. A book that is misunderstood. I had a couple that came to mind. One I'm gonna go with. Always confused me. I thought I missed something. I'm gonna go with It by Stephen King. Because I've always heard people say like, "Oh, it's about a killer clown." They always emphasize that, a killer clown named Pennywise. I'm reading, I'm thinking, well, it's not like it's a killer clown. It's essentially a shape-shifting creature, and it takes the shape of a clown to lure the small children. Because remember, like in the book, like we go back between them, the characters as kids and adults, and the kids are in the 1950s when clowns were a little more relevant. I don't even know if you really see clowns today at like fairs and whatnot. Yeah, back then clowns were pretty big. A lot of famous celebrities like Emma Kelly, the clown. Like, you know, clowns were pretty popular entertainers. And so it's like the shape-shifting creature takes the shape of a clown to lure the children. So like, I always hear people say like, "Oh, it's a killer clown," but no, it's just it's a shape-shifting alien. Takes the shape of a clown to lure the children. So I keep rambling and repeating myself. Yeah, that always confused me. I thought I missed something in that one. So yeah. You know, I'm going to give you a second one too, because there's one book that I'm going to do an individual video on. It's The Passenger and Stella Maris by Cormac McCarthy. The last 2 books he wrote when he died. That was really interesting because I've seen like so many other like reviews about that one. I've heard all sorts of like wild theories. They say like, "Oh, the whole book was a dream," you know, that old theory of it. It's like it was a dream. Things in the book didn't really happen. But when you get past, like, the book is all conversations. That's one of the best things. One of the best things about it. When you get past the conversations, you get to the plot of it. It's really very basic. At least I thought it was. That's the way I interpreted it. So yeah. So there you go. I'll give you 2 for 1 with that. The Stella Maris and The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy, and It by Stephen King. And that'll do it, folks. And of course, number 10 on the tags, as always, the tag others. So I will tag a few people. As always, just because you're tagged doesn't mean you're obligated to participate. The whole point of tagging people is to draw attention to their channels. Alright. Let's see. Well, I did my Target run. I don't know what else I'm going to do today. It's my day off. Okay. Probably read a little bit more. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.